Hello, farmers, and welcome to the harvest season. My name is Al,
And my name is Kelly.
and we're here today to talk about farming games. Woo!
Woo!
Hello, Kelly. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey Al, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right, but tired. It's a whole 7:30 at night, so I'm obviously getting tired because I'm old now. But yeah,
Hey, we're the same age.
yeah.
Don't drag me down with you.
In my 30s now.
I've got 2 weeks, or actually a week, so
Yeah.
I'll be there soon.
Yeah, I think Rona's about the same, actually. My wife, Rona's, she turns 30 in 2 weeks or so, so you must have a very similar
nice.
birthday.
Yeah.
But yeah, old.
It definitely is a little more exhausting now.
Yeah. Yes. But anyway, so yeah, welcome to the podcast. For those who don't know, Kelly is a friend who we met through the Slack on It's Super Effective, which I feel like everybody on the podcast has come through. So yeah, welcome.
It's a great place to be.
It is. Many people who care about games enough to talk to me for a couple of hours about them. So today we're going to talk about the wonderful game, or maybe I shouldn't say wonderful because that's a bit of a spoiler. The game Spiritfarer.
I'm so excited to talk about this game.
Yeah. It's been a long time coming as well. We've had to delay this episode multiple times. I think we're about 2.5 months late.
I think so. I was a little ambitious after the move, and I thought, I'm moving into a house. I could do it that weekend.
Yeah.
And then it just continued to snowball from there.
Different things. But yeah, we're finally getting there, and we are counting it as a farming game because there's farming in it. So that's good enough. Look, if we counted Pokemon as a farming game, we're counting this as a farming game.
Yeah, I think that definitely seems fair.
So yeah, we're going to talk about Spiritfarer. Before that, though, we're going to talk about the news. And first, I'm going to ask Kelly, what have you been playing recently?
So with the move, I've been a little brain dead. So I haven't been playing games as much as I normally would.
Shocking.
But before I moved, I was playing way too much Hades.
Oh, yeah.
I think I made it up to like Heat 22 with only one weapon, but still it was enough to invest solid like 2 hours every night for like 2 months into that game, at least.
I'm sure somebody listening will
addictive.
understand. I have not played Hades
Yeah.
yet, but I'm sure it's very impressive.
It's a beautiful game. If you like dungeon crawlers, I would definitely recommend it.
Well, part of my problem is I don't know if I do. I'm really bad.
Hades.
No.
I feel like Hades. It wasn't expensive. I think it's like $15 or so.
Yeah.
So it is a good one to like test it out and try it out on, and it definitely. I wouldn't say it's easy, but I think there's like mechanics in it that make it easier for people new to dungeon crawlers.
Right. Yeah, well, it's a sort of game that I could see myself. I mean, it looks really good, and everybody's raving about it. So it's probably the sort of thing I'll pick up at some point when I've run out of games. Ha ha ha! Isn't that funny? Run out of games.
What's a backlog?
Yeah. But I listened to a podcast a couple months ago, I think, about about the music in Hades, which was very interesting.
You shared that with me, actually, and I really enjoyed that podcast.
It was very good listen.
Yeah.
It's from a podcast called, is it Gameplay, I think it's called, if you're interested in it. They look at the design of games, and very interesting.
I think I played some like Cafe Mix in between the move because I was pretty brain dead.
The best kind of game when you're brain dead.
Yeah. You just, you move your finger around the screen and that's all you have to think about.
I tried so hard to get into Cafe Mix, but it wasn't gelling with me. Like I really loved Shuffle, and it felt
that's
like...
what I feel like this is kind of wants to be.
Yeah, but it's just so, I can't... There's something about the kind of real, it's kind of like the real time version of Shuffle, right?
Mm-hmm.
When it's like you're kind of it's just I can't do it.
I think I kind of play it like a lunatic. Like I'm sure people have better strategies than me, and I'm good at the game. Like, not to brag or anything, but I am good at the game. But I'm a lunatic. Like, I just wiggle my finger like crazy across
Yeah.
that screen.
I think that's the only way to play it.
It might be. My Switch screen looks so disgusting after I play it, though. It has to be wiped down every time.
Yeah, yeah.
But what have you been playing?
I have been playing mostly Harvest Moon One World, the new Harvest Moon game, because we'll be talking about that in a future episode, and I will not give away any opinions just now at all. But if you want a sneak peek of my opinions and the gameplay, I have been streaming it most weekday evenings. Well, evening my time, afternoon most of America's time. So you can go find me on Twitch and watch that if you want. It is quite a game.
You know, I've never played a Harvest Moon, but one of my best friends is super into Harvest Moon.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not sure if she picked this one up though yet.
Well, yeah. Have you ever had the explanation of the Harvest Moon versus Story of Seasons?
Split. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know she got really excited for the Story of Seasons that came out in the summer.
Yeah. Generally, the Story of Seasons ones are the good ones, and the Harvest Moon ones after. Oh, what was it? I can't remember. After around about 2007, I think it was. Any Harvest Moon game after that is not original Harvest Moon and generally not good. Not because it's not original Harvest Moon, just because they're not good games, right? I think it's important to make that distinction. They could be good, and people should not assume that they're bad, but up till this point, they've all been bad. So,
so if you're to look at the data.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Don't knock it because of who they are. Knock it because the games are actively bad. But anyway, but that was not technically an opinion on the new game. Anyway, so yeah, I've been playing that quite a lot, and I've been doing my 1 day of Stardew Valley every day on the new update as well, and I think that's probably about it. I've not been playing anything else.
I miss Stardew Valley. I keep thinking I should like get back into it.
It's the sort of game that I kind of fall into every so often, and just like play it for a while and then stop. So yeah.
My issue with the management games is that I'm not good at my own time management while playing them.
Yeah.
So I just black hole into whatever time management game I'm playing.
Just another day.
Yep. Just one more day. It'll be fine. Just one more season. You can sleep tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. I tell you what does help with that is having kids, because they don't let you just
Yeah, that's very fair.
It's like kids make you do things, right? Like, oh, right, okay, we have to get the kids up. They're, turning their bedrooms upside down, or, oh, we need to give them food. They are annoying me. Like they create a regularity in your life, even if you don't want it.
It's very true. You can ignore a timer, but you can't really ignore your kid,
I know. Yeah. So that's me. I think that's about it. Should we talk about some news?
Yes, let's talk about news.
So the first piece of news is actually quite an old bit of news. It's about 5 weeks old, but I forgot to put it in the episode I was going to put it in, and then I didn't put it in the last episode because I knew this episode was coming up, and that is the Spiritfarer update.
So excited for this.
It's very good. So basically, I'll give a very quick overview. We'll probably talk a little bit more about it in the Spiritfarer part of the episode, but just to give people a quick update, there are going to be 3 updates to Spiritfarer. One is coming out in spring 2021, so that should be soon, I think. And then one in summer 2021, and then one in fall 2021. They're all going to bring new spirits, 1 in each of the first 2, and then 2 in the last one. And then there's some more story, some upgrades, some quality of life improvements, and stuff like that. So just more of the game.
I'm very excited. I didn't expect them to do this when I played the game back in September.
Yeah.
So when this news dropped, I was very shocked, and I didn't expect them to do so many too.
Well, yeah, and it's free.
Yeah, that's the best DLC. Part.
Yeah, so I also wasn't expecting this Yeah, it looks good. I'm always happy when there's new content and updates to games. Yeah, it's obviously been successful because presumably they wouldn't have been able to, afford to do this without charging for it if they hadn't been successful. So
That's
that's good.
very true. I didn't think about it like that.
Yeah. I mean, if they'd announced it before they'd kind of released, then that tells you nothing. But it's been what, 6, 7 months or something? When did it come
Yeah,
out?
I think it came out. I know I did. I get it the day it dropped. I know I played it
August.
in September. Okay, so maybe it came out in August and I bought it in September.
Yeah, came out on the 18th of August. So yeah, what's that? 7 months. I was bang on. So yeah,
Yeah, that's an awesome sign. I didn't think about it like that at all.
yeah. I mean, I'm not hugely surprised. I've seen most like big games journalist things covering it. We're quite late in covering it, so yeah, it's
But yeah, no,
obviously
I've
been good.
definitely seen it listed with like a lot of other games that I enjoyed over this year,
Yeah.
last
Oh
year,
yeah, definitely.
I should say.
Oh yeah, what is time? Uh, so the next piece of news is that Lens Island has been delayed. The release has been delayed until October. Kelly, have you heard of Lens Island?
I hadn't, but I did look into it after you gave me the outline,
Yeah.
and it looks pretty interesting. It kind of reminds me of like Stardew Valley and Minecraft,
Yeah. Yeah.
but like with like the loneliness of Mist.
Yeah, yeah, it is a lot more sparse, which is kind of it's more survivalist, I guess, than Stardew
Yeah,
Valley, but therefore a lot more sandboxy as well, which I really like in a game.
yeah, that's very true. I was reading that there's gonna be. I didn't see, maybe I missed it, but that there would be like creatures in the dungeons.
Oh, I'd not paid that much attention to that. I've only really looked at like the farming and the building aspects of it.
I like the dungeons,
Yeah.
even in Stardew where they scared me.
Yeah, there were some days where you're just like, you know what, I'm not going to go to the mine today.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's have a
I don't
quiet
have it in
day.
me today. Yep.
And I would love to see data on how many people have ever done the monster farm, the farm where you can have monsters on it. Like, I'm sure some people have, but like, it must be a tiny percent of people because who would want that stress?
Yeah, it just seems so stressful. It seems way too stressful.
Yeah, yeah. Like, you mentioned Minecraft, like, the most stressful times in Minecraft were when you were like walking somewhere and you just heard like the zombie noise or the skeleton noise. You're like, oh no,
Yeah. No, I don't want that.
this is my home. Go away.
Yeah, like I should be safe here and now I am no
Yeah.
longer safe in my safe spot.
Yeah, and you have to go, are they behind me? Are they behind a wall? Like, where are they? I need to be safe, please. Yeah. Yeah, so that was meant to come out in June, I think, and has been delayed till October. I mean, I'm totally fine with this for two reasons. One, I like game delays because they generally end up better. And two, the first half of the year is very busy with farming games. So yeah, let's push some till the end of the year, please.
Yeah, space them out for Al.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there have been four, or will have been four farming game releases in March.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I guess maybe some people were thinking like, oh hey, it's spring. Let me
Yeah.
put out a nice farming game.
Yeah. Well, part of the problem was that both Harvest Moon and Story of Seasons both are releasing in March, and you're like, that's two of like the biggest farming games, and then
Yeah,
there
that's
were
a lot
another
to like
couple as well.
invest.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not
It's a
small
lot of
games,
time to invest. A lot of yeah, exactly.
but next, the exciting and terrifying news that Animal Crossing there are going to be some Animal Crossing Build-A-Bears. So
I'm curious to see which characters they're gonna release.
yeah, yeah, I think that's the key point, right? Because it's either going to
Yeah.
be meh, I don't really care, or I'm sorry, I'm now have no money.
Yes, because I feel like they really have to like limit how many characters they release.
Yeah. Oh, can
And
you
it's
imagine
very
if they
hard
did
to
all
like
like 600? Was it 600
oh
of them
my
or
god.
something?
Yeah, there's some crazy amount of characters.
Yeah.
So I wonder how they're gonna do that. I feel like for sure there's gonna be that new cat. What's his name again? Oh my god, the one that everybody
Oh yeah.
was like selling.
Raymond.
Raymond.
There we are.
Yes. I feel like
Yeah.
he could definitely be a high contender for it.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see whether they do villagers or whether they just do NPCs. I could see them just doing NPCs.
I could see that too. Because
Which I
that would
think,
definitely stop like fights over people being like, well, where's my favorite?
yeah, but it'll also disappoint some people, I'm sure.
Well, I think somebody's going to be disappointed anyway when you have a game with 600 characters.
Unless they do them all.
It's very true. It's very true.
Yeah, I mean, from my point of view, if they do Celeste and Blathers, I will buy them. That's it. I'm sorry that I'm buying them.
Yeah, those would be really cute.
Yeah,
And then you
yeah,
could have the matching pair, brother and sister, and you put them together.
yeah, yeah. I think I liked New Horizons was the first Animal Crossing I played, and I liked the characters. And then when have you seen about the backstory behind Celeste and why Celeste likes stargazing?
I don't think I did. New Leaf was my first Animal
Right.
Crossing, so I'm not
Yeah.
as like deep in the lore as like some other people who've been playing these games for so long.
Yeah, so it was a really small throwaway comment, I think, in Wild World, where Blathers tells you that the reason Celeste is so into stargazing is because she can't fly.
That's so sad.
Yeah, I know, right? But it's
Oh
also
my
like
god.
it just gives so much to her character, and just like, oh, I
It
love
really does.
you.
I already loved Celeste, and now I'm like, I want to give her a hug and
Exactly.
make her some tea and watch
Exactly.
some stars with her.
So it's just, yeah, it kind of, when I found that, I was just like, I'm sorry, favorite character now, please, I'm thanking you.
Yeah, that just escalated her even further. That's
Yeah. And
oh
I
man,
also was an amateur astronomer when I was a kid as well. I loved the stars and stuff, so that helps as well. And
that does.
and Blather's name, I don't know whether this is where it comes from, but it there's a Scottish word blether, which means to talk, like talk nonsense. And I feel
Okay.
like, based on his character, I feel like that's where his name it comes from, because he does talk a lot. Sometimes a
Yeah, I
lot of
think
nonsense.
we have like a similar word.
Right.
So I think that's definitely has to be where it comes from.
Yeah. So
But yeah,
I
those
like
two
that
those
as
two
well.
are definitely my favorites. I think I was very much like Blathers as a little kid, where I would just spew insane animal
Yeah.
facts and dinosaur
Yeah.
facts
Yeah. Yeah.
to anybody who was in earshot.
Yeah. Mine
And
weren't
then,
specific to animals or any specific thing. It was just like I would just soak up facts
yep,
and
well,
information
mine was
from
anything
anywhere.
too, but like it was definitely heavily animals and
Yeah.
dinosaurs. But like, yeah, I was like anything that I picked up,
Yeah.
it spewed forward.
Yeah, oh, definitely. My mum would be like, "How do you get this information in your brain? How do you keep it there?" It's like, I
Yep.
don't. It just happens.
Yep. It's very funny. When I was a little kid, I won a local beauty pageant when I was like 3 because I said I wanted to be a paleontologist, and the judges were like amazed that I could say paleontologist.
Amazing, amazing. Didn't quite do that then. Uh, yeah, cool. So that's Animal Crossing taking even more of our money. Maybe.
Always.
We'll see. We'll see. The next piece of news is that their Ooblets have come out with some information about their upcoming updates. Have you looked into Ooblets at all? I presume you haven't played it, but
I think I've heard of it. I think I've seen people like talking about it. It's like kind of Pokemon-esque, right?
yeah, it's Pokemon farming basically. You farm
Okay.
you farm
It looks cute. Like the
creatures.
characters look very cute.
Oh yeah, they do. They do. They're dreadfully cute. They're kind of sickeningly cute. Uh, and like everything in the game is like that. It's like the main currency in the game is called Nurnies, and it's like everything just has
Oh,
these names that you're just like, this is just sickening. You can't take in too much of it, or you need to go to
it's
sleep.
like sugary. It's like
Yeah,
sugary sweet.
exactly. But yeah, no, I really like the game. It's in early access just now, and they've announced that their 1.0 release is coming out late 2021 or early 2022. So it will probably be out in a year's time, roughly, if not a couple of months before that. We'll see. And there will be 3 updates before that point. One coming out March, which I mean, I guess means in the next week or so, basically. As you're listening to this, it will be, well, maybe 2 weeks. What is time? One mid 2021 and one late 2021. That's kind of why I'm thinking the 1.0 probably closer to the 2022, because I don't see how you get a two updates in late 2021. But anyway, so yeah, Ooblets. And the final piece of news is there's a new trailer for Snacko. So if you want to go see that, there'll be a link in the show notes. Have you
This one, I don't know
seen
what
Snacko?
this one is.
Snacko,
No.
oh, it looks great. We interviewed the developers about a year ago. So it's a farming simulator, but you are a cat.
Oh, you've got my attention already. Okay.
And you go to this mostly abandoned island, and you have to build it up. Does it sound like anything? Although they clearly didn't get that from Animal Crossing, because they first announced it before Animal Crossing New Horizons was announced. But anyway, yeah, it's got a really interesting art style where the world is 3D. It's kind of Paper Mario-esque art style where your character is 2D on a 3D world.
I'm gonna have to look this up, I think, after we finish talking here.
If only there was a trailer you could watch to.
If only.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're the people who make it are really, really nice people, and the game looks really good, and I'm excited for that. That is releasing in August, I want to say. Let me check my handy list of all the upcoming farming games. Snacko, August 2021. Was what they said when they launched the Kickstarter. I don't think we've had any more information since then. Yeah, cool. That's the news. Woo.
Exciting stuff.
I think it's time to talk about Spiritfarer.
Yes.
So
can I just say, going back over
yes.
this game to like prepare for this podcast, like I knew I would get like a little emotional, but like I didn't realize like how emotional I would get checking back in on these characters.
So you found it more emotional the second time around? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I didn't actually replay it the second time, because once I saw, I was like, I don't know if I can honestly do it again and feel the same level of emotions so soon after playing it the first time. But I guess I was probably wrong about that, because just like watching some like walkthroughs on YouTube and like stuff like that, I like teared up. I was like, I miss you guys. You guys are great friends.
Yeah. So I should note that we are going to try very hard to keep all of the story spoilers till the end of the podcast, and we will announce when that's going to happen. However, obviously, because we're talking about a game and we're going to be talking about it in a reasonable amount of detail, there probably will be things that people consider spoilers, and we're very sorry about that. So if you absolutely do not want any spoilers before you play this game, pause the podcast now, go play the game, come back once you played it. Simple as that.
And I would definitely say you should play the game.
Absolutely.
No spoilers or anything. It is just beautiful.
Yeah, I think it definitely works best when you don't have any spoilers for the story.
Yeah, for sure.
So we'll try our best to keep them to the end. We do need to talk about them, because we cannot talk about this game without talking about the characters and their stories. But we will keep that till the end. So one thing I didn't put in the show notes was a little overview. So I guess we should give a quick overview of the game. Do you want to do that? Do you think you can give a quick overview?
Yeah, I think I can.
Game?
If anything gets too spoilery, just shut me down. But I think I can.
Yeah, I've got edit power,
pretty
so
succinctly. Perfect. So Spiritfarer is basically, you are an adorable little guide to spirits who has to take them on their journey before they exit the spirit world. Where they don't actually say what that is.
Yeah, it's all a bit kind of. I think when I first started it, I thought this was like just before they die, but it seems like they're already dead, and this is before. It's all very abstract. It's almost like a purgatory type thing.
Yeah, I think it's meant to be left up to.
Yeah.
It's meant to be left up to whoever's playing.
Yeah.
But basically, so as you bring these characters on these journeys, you have to help them find peace or solace, or and then as you're doing that, you build up your boat. It all works together. I feel like I'm rambling right now. No,
that's fine. I think that's there's Yeah, I think in terms of the kind of the overall story, I think it kind of talks about the spirits as having something unfinished, and
Hmm.
you're there to help them finish and kind of complete their something, and it's different for each of them, and we'll get into that later. But it's a kind of resource management style game, with a very heavy story element to it.
Hmm.
So I think it'd be good to talk about graphics first, because my word, is this game a beautiful game?
Oh my god, it is. The graphics are so simple
Mm.
and yet
Yeah.
so beautiful. Like, I don't know if this is the right way to describe them, but they almost have like a stained glass feeling without being actual
Oh, interesting.
stained glass. Like, I guess the way that they outline the different
Yeah.
values and everything kind of adds that to it.
Yeah. It certainly feels unlike any other game I've played in terms of graphics.
Yeah, they're definitely very unique. And I
Yeah.
have to say, I loved like the color coordination that they did throughout, like how each different town had like their own little
Mm.
vibe going on based on the colors that they used
Yeah.
and the sunsets.
Oh,
Oh my
look.
god.
I can't tell you how many screenshots I have just of me standing at the front of the boat,
Yep.
and the sky
Yes.
just looks, and it's just water. There's nothing else, but
Yep.
it just looks gorgeous.
Yep. They really killed it with the sunsets.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. That's a killer, right? You get a good sunset in a game and I'm there.
Yep. Honestly, so it's funny because like with Hades, they also have like a really good sunset scene.
Okay.
But I guess
Interesting.
I'm playing games with Charon and sunsets this year. I think that's my theme.
Fair
But
enough.
yeah, the sunsets, and then I feel like the way that they styled each character
Yeah.
did such a good job of like conveying a character's personality.
Yeah. Yeah. Just in their mannerisms as well. Like just the way that they are, kind of gives you so much about their personality.
Exactly, and it's like such a small detail, but it really
Yeah.
does add so much.
Yeah. 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 Definitely. Definitely. So you are a 2D character in a side-scrolling 2D world mostly. I think there's a kind of few bits where there's a little bit of confusion to
Vertical.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's you. Anything else graphics-wise to talk about? It's hard to kind of
So
go talk about that
I know
part of the
this
graphics
isn't.
without talking about the mechanics, but
Yeah. So this actually, I thought this might be a good spot to mention this, but I loved the music and the sound effects
oh,
too.
music. Yes, I haven't added that in.
Um,
Music.
yeah, the music was just like so peaceful and soothing, and
Yeah.
like I really feel like it wasn't uh, obstructive, I guess, in any way.
Yeah.
But so you know what? I'll save this for the NPCs. We'll talk about this part later.
Okay. But yeah, no, it's one of those games that makes you want to turn on the sound, because the
Definitely.
music's really nice, and yeah, but I think it changes throughout the day as well. So kind of set that mood a bit. So like when it's nighttime, it's like really really quiet, really calm, but it's still there. And then kind of when you're around like bustling areas during the day, it's much more upbeat and louder, but still not. It's still not overpowering, but yeah, it kind of helps you set the
No.
mood a bit.
There's only one spot where the music is a little overpowering, but I personally like it.
Which bit was that?
We could talk about it now. Alex, the bus stop.
Oh, my word, I hate that so much. And
So
it
I
works.
think
It works.
I
It
think I'm
works, but I
alone
hate it.
in this because the music is supposed to stop you from using the bus stops.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's them putting in like a mechanic to say, "Hey, we don't want you to really use this, but we understand if you have to use this." But I loved Alex's music, and I would
Oh, yeah?
actually pause my game there so I could hear the music. And I think I'm the only person. I think I'm like the only person.
Can I tell you the main reason why I hate it? I
Yeah.
wouldn't hate it as much if this hadn't happened. I was sailing, and we've not got to this part of the mechanics, right? But we're here now. I need to talk about this. So the way that it works is when you're sailing, you set a point on the map and you automatically sail. However, when night comes, your boat stops. You can't sail at night.
Oh my god.
So there was one journey I had where it got to night and it stopped, and you just so happened to stop next to a bus stop. And so all night, this ridiculously loud, obnoxious kind of almost, it feels like it's based on like a football hooligan style
Yes,
music.
I was gonna
Like,
say like parade music or something, like
yeah, just
very
like, oh,
abrasive.
yeah. So that playing all night long, it was the worst. I hated it. I was like,
That was
dude, we're trying to sleep.
that is the complete opposite of like the nighttime soundtrack too.
Yeah, yeah. It's just, oh, if it hadn't been for that, I probably wouldn't hate it so much. But it was just the absolute, I was like, what are the chances of this? Right? Like, and it was
It's
like
like having
smack
some
bang in the
neighbors.
middle of the screen as well.
Oh my god. Yeah, so it's not like slightly off in the distance where you can still hear it,
Yeah,
but it's kind of quieter.
yeah. So
Oh my
bad.
god.
I guess similarly to the sounds though, what I like about that is that each of the places where you go to that's kind of on the water, the music changing like that is a really good like, oh, I'm here. I can go talk to this person I've been trying to get to, whatever. Rather than
Yep.
having to pay attention to like the meter that tells you how far along your journey you are. I really like that.
No,
That was very
I
nice.
definitely did too. I thought that was very helpful because there'd be a lot of times where I'm like running around doing stuff and then all
Yeah,
of a sudden it'd be
yeah.
like, oh, I'm here. Okay.
Right, cool. Well, let's talk about mechanics. Even though, well, let's start with the sailing, even though that's not first on my list because we already started talking about that.
Yeah, I didn't mean to just skew the whole plan here.
No, it absolutely worked. It absolutely worked. My list is not we must do it in this order. It's just so we don't forget things. So yeah, it's entirely based the game around sailing around this map. And as I mentioned, you go onto the map and you select a place, and the ship will automatically sail in a straight line to that. Um, you obviously can't sail at night because there's a story thing about what is powering the boat, and it needs sunlight. Blah 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 blah. Whatever. That's not massively important. Um, the interesting thing about the sailing I found was that like there's a bunch of things around the map which are essentially mini games to get to do your resource management to get things. That's kind of your main way of getting things, right?
Yeah, I loved that because I
Yeah.
felt like I could go to an island, go to a mini game, go to an island, go to like you know what I mean. It like
Yeah.
I feel like it satisfied my need to like micromanage my scheduling of stuff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So I could be like, okay, well, I'm at this island now, and then I'm gonna sail to this minigame, and while I'm doing that, I can do these three other things on the ship, and then by
Yes.
the time I get there, I'll have this.
Yeah, it's a really interesting way of kind of spacing that out. Yeah, because like so many times in resource management games, you've got to go right. Which of these things am I going to do just now? Whereas this is like, well, I'm doing two things at once, right? I'm going to the island that I need to go to do something, and I'm watering my crops, and I'm cooking some food, and I'm doing all these things. And it's nice to kind of have that like, I don't really have an option but to do some things right now. You know?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I really liked too that like, especially early in the game when you didn't have like a ton of stuff to do,
Yeah.
that you could fish while you were sailing.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That was good.
I
That was
think
good.
there's like a moment where you can't, and I got so upset because I was like, ah, this seems like such a perfect time to like fish. And then like 2 minutes later, that was updated. And I was like, oh, perfect. I can fish again.
Yeah. 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 I guess, is there anything in specific we want to talk about in these mini games? I kind of there's
um,
some. I don't think there's anything hugely important to discuss about them, other than just like each different one gives you a different resource that you need to gather to do things.
yeah, I think they were fun. They were like, they weren't too difficult, especially as the game went
Yeah,
on.
yeah. Well, and it didn't
Um,
matter if they were difficult, right? Because you could just come back and do it again. That
yeah,
was the beauty of
exactly.
it. They weren't limited in that sense.
And then there was like also no like punishment if you didn't do
Yeah,
well in them.
yeah. You just didn't get as much.
Exactly. So that was kind of nice.
One thing I
Um,
would say is I think some of them weren't as obvious as to how. So I'm thinking the nebula pillbugs to get the nebula fiber. That one I had absolutely no clue how to do that one, and it's because you need a specific spirit on board to even be able to do that. So like I was really confused. I was like, I need this thing and I have no idea where to get it. And it wasn't like on the map anywhere. It's a thing that only happens when you get a specific spirit. And that was really confusing to me. It's like, why is this thing asking for this resource that I cannot see anywhere on the map?
I didn't have that happen with that exactly, but I did have an issue at one point where I couldn't get a certain character because I couldn't figure out
Oh
how to
yeah,
get
yeah.
a certain resource. And then I realized that I was just being dumb and like could go to a different spot to get this resource.
Right. Yeah. I think
Um,
it mostly I think does a good job of
yeah, oh,
balancing, giving
definitely.
you clues and but still making you figure things out. But this particular one, the nebula fiber, I had no idea how I was meant to know that. You just have you're just I mean it's fine. It's kind of baked into the story, I think, is the problem. And if you don't get that specific point, which is it's quite close to the end of the story until you can do
Yeah.
that. But I felt like really quickly I got something that needed nebula fiber. I'm like spending hours in the game going, I don't know what this thing is and where to get
Yep.
it.
Yeah,
But
that's definitely, I feel like they definitely did do like a good job of like, making sure that you understood what you have to do to get the next thing.
yeah, yeah,
I think my issue was like me personally not picking up on something that they were like, putting down, I guess. But yeah, I definitely experienced that too, where like I would notice I needed certain items to craft something, and I was like, I don't feel like I'm even close to getting that item.
yeah, yeah.
I
And
don't
what
know
even
how to
is it?
get that item. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Who
yeah.
gives me that item?
Yeah, I definitely used the wiki to find out some of this information, which is fine. I don't think you needed to do it for most of it, so it's not an inherently bad thing. I'm just impatient.
Yeah, there was like one or two things where I think at one point I was just like confused, and I was like,
Yeah,
okay, I've sailed this map like twice.
yeah,
I'm obviously missing something.
yeah, yeah. Exactly, exactly. Um, yeah, I think that's really all I want to talk about them. There's some nice little bits and pieces that I don't want to spoil for people that we don't really need to talk about that are how these things work. But they were fun little mini games, and it's an interesting way of getting things. It's like you don't have to go to this specific island where you can mine for this thing. It's like here are a few places across the map, which was the other nice thing. Is like nowhere was there only one place to get a specific thing. It was like they all
Yes.
had a few places across the map, which was nice. And then there was just a little mini game to do that. And they're also, I think, the what's quite nice is because they're baked into the characters. So the characters, the spirits tell you like they're like, oh, this is so and so, and here's a little bit of like you, they some of them have like are baked into those spirit stories, and
Yes.
they're kind of like this is what we're doing here, this is part of my process. I quite like that. I kind of added more to it rather than just like, oh yeah, you need the resource. It was also like
Yeah,
we're also
exactly.
helping the spirit along.
Yeah, and you would get like more of the story for them as you did it
Yeah,
more, so that was like a nice
exactly,
little add-on. I
exactly.
did I did feel like I had an issue saying no, even if I didn't need a resource to some of these mini games because of the tie to the character and not wanting to like disappoint them or, upset them.
Even once they were gone.
Once they were gone, I didn't feel it as bad, but every once in
Okay,
a while I'd be
yeah.
like, oh, I miss them. Maybe I should do this for them.
Yeah, there were actually a few times I had a little bit of an issue with the prompt where sometimes I felt like it would come up too quickly, and I was like, because I always have this issue where I'm always trying to speed up text in
Uh,
games because it never comes up quickly enough for me. I'm always like, just show
yeah.
me the text and get out my way.
Yeah, I
Um,
button mash through text
yeah,
a lot.
so there were a few times where I accidentally triggered an event, and I was like, oh, I didn't want to do that one,
Yeah,
but
I
whatever.
definitely did that too, and it was like, well, I guess I'm doing this now.
Yeah, yeah, okay, fine, I'll get electrocuted again. Cool. Yeah, so that's kind of sailing as a whole. Have we missed anything about sailing?
I did actually just want to add one thing about sailing. So I don't know
Go
if
for
this
it.
happened to you, but because you couldn't sail at night, when the sun would start to go down, it would like kind of set off a panic in me.
All right.
So when I would see that like we were getting close to like dusk, I would be like, okay, I'm at this island. I have to make it to this next island before the
Right.
sun sets, so then I can start doing things on that island. So by the time the sun rises in the morning,
Ah, right. Okay.
I can
Okay.
immediately go to the next island. And
I
I
didn't
think
have.
that's just a me thing. Like,
Yeah,
I'm sure other people have done it too, but
yeah, I definitely didn't have that issue, but I think it was because I was okay with just going, you know what? If I've got nothing to do, I'll just go to bed and wake up in the morning.
you know what? That was actually my next note was I never slept. I slept
Oh,
like 5
never.
times.
Interesting.
I think
I,
I literally slept like 5 times.
I really like how you don't need to sleep, right? Because it kind of gets
Yes.
to this aspect of you are a spirit, right? You're not a person. You don't need to do these things. Um, but you can if you want. I quite
Yeah, it
like
was a
that.
nice little speed up if you didn't have anything to do. Like there was a few
Exactly.
occasions where I was just like, okay, I could sleep now. I don't need to
Yeah.
stay up.
Yeah. So I did that quite a lot. If I didn't have something to do, I would just do it. And I wouldn't worry about that. And that's probably the reason why I didn't have that issue that you did. I did have, that did remind me of one thing though. What I found really annoying. So if this is a good thing, if you slept, you wouldn't wake up like as soon as the sun came up. You'd wake up like a little bit after it, and the boat will have already been moving for a little bit before you do that. But this led to one annoying thing in that because so you interact with like a computer type thing to decide where to go. If it's nighttime, when you go to interact with that computer, it says you can't sail at night. So you can't select a place on the map to go, even though
Yes.
when you go to sleep and you wake up, you will have had been moving. So I always felt like that was a waste. If I hadn't selected a journey by the time the sun was down, that would annoy me because then I would have wasted time not traveling by the time I woke up in the morning.
No, yeah, I definitely had an issue with that too because as someone who wasn't sleeping, I would literally run to the computer the second I could in the morning.
Yeah, yeah.
I did have a little issue with that. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say it feels like just a weird oversight. Like I get that you can't travel at night. I get that mechanically and lore wise, but I don't get why I can't select a place
Yeah,
to go. Like, what does that add to the game? You know?
yeah. It also kind of like irked me that I couldn't even view the map
Yes, yeah, that too.
to like try to plan out,
Yeah,
even if I couldn't select, just to say like, oh, well, I need to go to this island to get this thing.
yeah,
So instead,
definitely.
I'd be like Googling it to be like, okay, well, what island has that thing since I can't
Yeah,
look at the map. I also occasionally I would cancel my trip on accident, and that would annoy me too.
I did that. I did that once or twice, but I got the hang of it after that. So it was like one of those things where it's like, yes, that probably should have been improved, but it stopped and it wasn't annoying for me for long term. It was just a
Yeah,
couple of times of
it was a very small thing. I think it was
yeah.
more of like me being impatient and hitting the buttons too fast.
No, I'm definitely. I'm not saying it wasn't a thing that they should have improved. They definitely should have improved it. But it's one of those things where it's like, yes, it's an issue, but it's a very short term issue.
Yeah.
And is that sort of thing is common in games and technology in general. Is like this wasn't intuitive, and that's annoying. But your brain adapts to it pretty quickly.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, sailing, good fun. I should note you said it was a small thing. I suspect there are going to be a lot of small things that we'll complain about, um, because
I'm
that's
sure
what
there will
happens when
be.
a game is good.
Yes. um,
So the next thing is, the money maker for this podcast, farming. Um, the farming I found was quite reasonably deep. Actually, I was expecting it to be less investing than it actually was. Right. So there are three different types of fields that you can have. There's one, I think it was called a garden. One was a field, and one was it orchard.
yeah, the orchard.
So and there's just different types. So obviously the orchard is trees that grow like fruit, and there's an olive one and silk I think you can grow as well. And then the other two is just whatever they felt like they could be bothered putting in different ones. I never really saw a logical difference between the two, but um
So I didn't notice this either while I was playing, but when I was looking up stuff to take notes for this, one of them is for foods that need to be processed, and one is for foods that you can basically just eat as is.
oh,
So it's like not a pattern that I noticed at all, but looking
oh,
back, it makes sense.
okay. All right. Okay. Fair enough. I'll take your word for it. Um I don't think that really hugely mattered, right? It was just a kind of one of these mechanics things. It was fine. I have no opinion on it. Um, but yeah, so the way that farming worked is you got seeds. You could buy seeds or you could find seeds. Oh, that's one thing we didn't talk about with sailing. You would sometimes come across cargo that had obviously fallen off ships or whatever. It was like a box that you
I
could jump
loved
into the
those.
water and break open, and you would get some seeds or some um, rocks. What do you call them? Minerals, I guess,
I think they
and
said
stuff like that.
ore. Ore is
Or
like
yeah,
the
yeah,
yes, that's it. Yeah.
something like that. So yeah, that's just a small thing. They were quite handy. But yeah, so you could get your seeds either through that or buying them, or some people would give you them. There's lots of different ways to get them. Then you would plant them in the appropriate place, water them. After a while, they'd need watered again, and then after a while, you'd be able to harvest them. So, in one way, it's kind of a simple aspect, but also it was a lot kind of more interesting than I thought it would be. There were quite a wide range of crops to grow.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool like view on it because I don't play a lot of farming games. Like I've played like Stardew Valley,
Yeah,
but you obviously have a much bigger, broader game playlist. So like I
yes.
enjoyed the farming. Like I thought it was like cute, like good farming. But it's also nice to hear that like you, as someone who plays a lot of farming games, also thought it was like more detailed than expected.
Yeah, it's one of these things where I think it. One thing that I found in this game is that nothing really, other than I guess what you've mentioned about nighttime, nothing is really there to stress you out,
Yeah.
right? And the
Oh no, I
farming really.
create the stresses. I create my own stresses. Let's not get it confused here.
Okay, let me change this. Let me change this mind. So nothing is really nothing punishes you for
Hmm.
not doing something. Um, Generally it's like if you don't do something, that's fine. You can just do it later. And that's the same with
Hmm.
farming.
Yeah, because I think honestly, if you miss even like watering them, I think they still grow a little bit, just slower.
Yeah, I mean, and even if I'm not sure whether they do or not. We need to look into that. But
Yeah, I
at
can't
the very
remember if I'm
least,
recalling this wrong.
at the very least, they don't die, which is
Yes.
kind of the key point. Is that is sometimes in one of these games where the point isn't farming, right? I don't think it makes sense to have
Hmm.
that in an actual farming game, but in a game where farming is part of it, this idea that you could be like off doing something and then you come back and you're like, oh no, my crops are dead because I forgot to water them is really
Hmm.
not enjoyable. So I think they did it really nicely, and that this is kind of the perfect game to play if you like something that's calming and doesn't kind of go, you didn't do this at the right time, you lose, you know?
Yep. And like your crops can't rot either, which is nice.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Once they're fully grown, yeah, you just pick them whenever you want. All
Hmm.
you're doing is disadvantaging yourself because you can't then plant something else straight away.
Yeah, yeah, that's literally it. I really did enjoy how one of these specific farming buildings tied into a character. But I don't want to do any spoilers, so I'm not going to talk about it too
We
much.
can, we can talk
I'll
about
talk
that when we
about
talk
it
about the
later.
spirits. Yeah. Yeah.
But I think they also did a really good job in tying all the buildings, honestly, to most of the characters.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Nothing is there just to be a resource. It's all
Hmm.
there to tie into the story as well, which is really nice. Um, yeah. Anything else farming wise? I found you got a lot for what you farmed.
You did. You really did. Especially from like the orchards.
Yeah.
I feel
Oh
like.
yeah, yeah.
But okay, so on the orchards though, I did not realize that trees don't die.
Or when you pick fruit off a tree, it's not done. That's it. You have to plant
Yeah,
a new tree.
like I thought like eventually the tree would like rot and I would have to like chop it down and like plant a new tree. Like no, it took me a long time to realize I had to make a second orchard.
Nice. Yeah, I took a while to realize you could build multiple of the same building. Because I was annoyed. I was like, there are so many of these crops. I want to grow more of them.
Yeah.
And it was when I got the orchard, I was like, oh, you can grow multiple of them because there are literally more trees than you can plant in an orchard.
Yep, I was very confused. I was like so annoyed with myself afterwards for not
Yeah.
realizing, but
Yeah. It was at that point that I was like, and now I get the boat being bigger thing. Because it's like,
mhm.
at the biggest size, and if you only plant one of you only have one of each building, it's like half full, your boat.
Yeah, you don't need that much room. You really don't. So yeah, I was also confused by that because I was like, wow, my
Yeah.
boat is really big, but I don't have that much.
I think I ended up with like 4 of each type of field by the end
Oh
of it.
wow.
I was all in on that. Because not only is it like obvious, we'll talk about this later on, you have to feed your spirits. Well, you don't have to, but to progress the story, you have to.
Yeah.
And so I was obviously growing it for that, but it was also a really easy way to make money. Like you could make a lot of stuff really quickly and then go sell it and make a lot of money.
I sold so much coffee just because that was such a quick thing to make and made you so much
expensive.
Money. It made you, and tea was also another one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was I was constantly just growing things in the garden to make money.
Yeah. Yeah. And you ended up getting loads of seeds for free as well. Like you could easily go through this not buying. Well, I think there are some seeds you have to end up buying a certain amount to progress the story. But other than that, you could like buy almost no seeds and still make so much money that you can do everything you want with. It's really good.
Yeah, it was very easy. And it was very easy also to like make a bunch of produce, sell it, and then buy new seeds without even like putting a dent in the money that I had just made.
Yes. Yeah. And I think like in some games that would be kind of like frustrating because it's like far too easy. But what I like about this is it's not the purpose of the game.
Like it's just to help you progress your story. It's not like a stressful thing that you have to be making more money.
Yeah, exactly. Anything else about farming before we move
on? I think that's everything.
Cool. Next one is mining. So mining, you mine for different ores and stuff like that. It was you progressively, as you move out the map, you get different things. So there's obviously you start out with your coal and copper and stuff like that, and then eventually you get up to your golds. And is there a platinum or something like that?
Was it platinum? I feel like there was something above gold.
Titanium.
I know there was like aluminum, quartz.
There was tin, which feels like it should be common, but was actually really rare.
Yeah, it was something weird. But no, it was interesting that they added so many different ore.
Yeah.
To the game.
I think the interesting thing about it is that it was, like everything, it was reasonably simple, but also like not so easy that you didn't find it interesting at all. So the way you mine, I really liked the mining action. So like instead of kind of just pressing a button to hit and then press a button to hit and then press a button to hit, it was almost like a timing thing. So you had to hold like charge the button. It up. Yeah, so you hold the button to charge it up, and then you would hit it, and depending on how long you'd held it, you'd hit it less times or more times to break it. But if you held it too long, it would be too much power and you'd fall over and you'd lose some time and you'd have to then try again.
And I don't know if this was just like how I saw it, but I feel like different ore required different levels of...
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Right? Different levels of... Like, I feel like the rarer... The word is so hard to say.
The more rare.
The more rare the ore, the harder it was for you to perfect that charge up.
No, definitely.
Which does add like a simple but like nice kind of difficulty.
Yeah.
Like, not saying that it was difficult, but like it adds like a nice little like, oh, I actually do have to pay attention to this while I'm doing this.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, that was definitely the case. And it kind of, it gives you the sense of rarity in it. Just like this is harder, therefore it must be more rare.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, yeah, and you say hard, you say difficult, I say hard. Like none of them are it's not. Yeah. This game is not difficult. It's not hard. It's not meant to be. But it's just like it's all relative, right? So it's like to get the coal, you would do like one hit slightly over half, and that would do it. Whereas getting the silver, you'd have to do like 2 almost full hits or like 4 half hits or whatever. Like, you know, it just gives you that small thing that kind of gives you that indication of its rarity.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that was like a good way for them to convey that concept to us as players.
Yeah. I don't think there's a huge amount to say about mining. There's some interesting things around some of the mini games and story wise. And obviously, different places give you different things. There were a couple of like specific places that are designed for mining. But other than that, there were just like some islands had a few mining spots and stuff like that. I don't think it's deep enough to talk too much about.
No, I think that some of the very specific areas for mining were like fun to explore.
Yes.
Because they did have some like hidden things in them.
Yeah, it was almost a dungeon type thing.
Yeah, exactly. So that was fun. That was like a nice little add-on to it.
Yeah, there was especially one that was really very puzzly. It was almost like it kind of reminded me of like a Zelda shrine. Like you had to figure out how to get to all the different places.
And I don't think I had the right upgrade for that at the time when I first found it.
Yes. Yeah.
So it was very frustrating at first, but then I came back and it was like, oh, I can access a little more, and then I could access a little more.
Yeah, you're like, how on earth am I meant to do that? And then you unlock a bit and you're like, oh, that's how I'm meant to do it.
Yep.
That explains all those lines that were all across this map.
Yep.
Fishing, another reasonably simple thing. So basically, you mentioned you can do this while sailing. So you've got a spot at the back of your boat where you fish. The minigame's reasonably simple. But again, I like the way that it does it, and it gives you the rarity of the fish by how hard it is. And actually, this one was hard because it took some getting used to with the more difficult ones. So you had to hold the button to reel it in, but then it could snap if you held it on too long. You'd have to loosen it a little bit for some of them and then pull it in again.
Yeah, I think this one you definitely had to get more of a rhythm for it.
Yeah.
Like, not to say that it was as hard as like the fishing in Stardew Valley or something.
No.
But there was definitely a few times where like, I cursed myself out for knowing that I shouldn't have continued to reel that fish in, but still trying to push it anyway.
Yeah.
And you could also, like, you started to get a sense of, like, which fish you were getting.
By
like,
how difficult it was.
if it was nighttime where I was in the water, how difficult it was to catch. So I thought that was kind of cool that you could, like, kind of tell what you were going to get.
Yeah.
There's also one specific area, or a few specific areas that were more difficult that I enjoyed that challenge on also.
Yeah.
But sometimes it could take you a while to reel in a fish, and like I'd be like, "Am I doing this wrong?"
There was one particular
it was just patience.
Yeah, there was one particular one where it's literally you held it on until it went red, and then you had to let it go, and it would go almost all the way back, but not quite all the way back until you could press it again, and then you'd press it, and like it took ages to get that one in.
I really feel like that was like it was just a patience testing game. Like it was just. It felt closer to real life fishing than I think some other portrayals of fishing in video games work.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think fishing was interesting in that it was probably the one you needed to do least to progress the story, but you still needed to do it for a few parts of the story.
Yeah, definitely. I think I fished for fun mostly at the beginning, and then at the end I tried to complete all of, like, I think I ended the game completing all of my lists.
Yeah.
So I like went around just looking for all the fish I was missing.
Yeah. Cooking, seeing as how we talked about fishing.
I loved cooking.
It was fine for me. My biggest issue with it was why on earth is it so easy to cancel the cooking? So
I laughed when I saw your note on this because I canceled cooking so many times.
It's the worst, right? So to kind of give an overview of it, basically what you do is you go up to the oven, you press a button, and you choose what you want to cook. And then there's a timer on the wall. And once the timer's done, there's like an icon that comes up and you know it's finished, right? Great. At any point before it's finished, you can go up to it and press the same button to put stuff in, and it takes it out uncooked, right? Yep. So if you go up and you're like, oh, I can't remember. You're not thinking like, oh,
like what am I cooking right now? Yeah.
Yeah. You forgot what you were cooking, or you forgot whether you were cooking something. You just go to put something in. That's it. You take it out, And some of these things take ages to cook, right?
Yes.
So you could be like, this actually takes like most of the day to cook, and it's like 1 minute away from finishing. You go, you press the button, that's it. Tough. It's all gone, all gone.
Yep.
You have to
The
start it
whole day
right from the beginning.
progress.
Absolutely ridiculous. It's like, I do not understand. This is probably my biggest issue with this game. I love this game. I absolutely love this game. But this is the most frustrating thing about it. Why do they make that so easy? I don't understand.
Yeah, I really feel like there should have been like a prompt that says like, "Hey, are you sure you want to take this out right now?"
Yeah, or even just like
Or
a
make
very
it a
small thing that
different
says,
button.
yeah, you're currently cooking, yeah, a different button or whatever, like a little thing that pops up and tells you what you're cooking and how long's left. And then, yes, I would like to cancel this, because that's not a common action. Like going, oh, actually, that thing I told you 6 hours ago that I wanted to cook, actually, I've changed my mind. Like, how
That thing
often do
that's in
people
the
do
oven,
that?
that's like mostly actually a cooked meal. I'd like to take it
Yeah,
out and decompose it and
yeah,
deconstruct
it's
it back to its
raw.
basic pieces again, please.
It's dreadful. Like, I get why they put it in, right? Because, like, I get, like, oh, whoops, I didn't actually mean to put that in. Let me cancel that, right? But why make it so easy to do that?
Yeah,
It's just,
yeah. No, there was I got upset with myself a few times for hitting the button too fast, taking the
yeah.
food out. I definitely feel like that maybe that will be one of the quality of life improvements. Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows? That would be nice. Yes, that's a good point. They did mention that one of the updates was quality of life improvement. That would be nice. Yes, if anybody from, is it Thunder Lotus? Is that what they're called? Is
Yes, yeah,
listening?
Thunder Lotus.
That that is what we would like. Make it more
Yes.
difficult to cancel your cooking. That's
And
all.
just tell
That's
us what
that's
we're
it.
cooking.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. One little thing that tells you what you're cooking and an option to cancel it. That's all we want.
So I don't know if you
Okay,
did this,
calming
but
down, calming down.
when I first started cooking, I didn't realize that. So at first, I was very nervous that I was going to burn the food if I didn't take it out right before the timer went off.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm so used to being punished by games when you don't do
Yes.
things at the exact moment. So I would literally stand in the kitchen and pull my food out. And then I realized that I was not cooking food this way.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So then I would put food in, go fish, run back after like fishing 2 times to see if my food was done. Until I realized that it's actually really hard to burn your food once it's done cooking.
yeah, so I think I think it must be possible, because there was one time where I came up and I took something out and said burnt food.
No, it
I
definitely
don't.
is. It takes like
Yeah.
24 hours for it to burn.
Right. Okay. See, I have no. It only happened once, and it was like I could not remember when I'd done or what I'd put in. So it was always possible. It was like a combination of things that I'd put in that led to this. Because you can, if you put certain things in, you get like, I can't remember what it's called, disgusting food or whatever, like
Yeah,
inedible food or
like
something.
inedible food.
Yeah, the usual, like all these things have something that's like, it basically just means just throw it away, right? Um,
Yeah.
and and I didn't know whether it was like that or whether I had just left it in too long. I had no idea. But part of the issue, I think, is that once you're finished cooking, there's like a whole bunch of black smoke that comes out of the
Yes.
kitchen, and so you're like, have I burnt it? Oh no, I
Yes.
burnt it.
I think
But no,
that's
that
what
just means it's
like
finished.
I think that's what like freaked me out so much was like there's like
Yeah.
black soot coming out of the kitchen in like thick clouds. Like this doesn't seem okay.
Yeah, yeah. Let me tell you, it's so satisfying. That one of the things I love about podcasting about games so much is it's so satisfying when I come with something that has really annoyed me or confused me, and then the other person's like, "Oh yeah, I had that as well." It's just so justifying.
Yeah, it really is.
It's like, good, it wasn't just me then.
Yep, that's why when I saw your like cancel cooking in like
Yeah.
all caps, I literally laughed out loud because I was like, "Oh, it wasn't just me." The other one thing I did wish for cooking though was that you could reorder the recipe list. Like I wish I could
Yes.
reorganize the way that it comes
Yeah.
in because
Great.
it's not always like intuitive to like
Yeah.
how the recipe combines in
Oh,
ingredients
it's
wise.
real weird. What on
It's
earth
very
was that
weird.
ordering? It
I
was like a
don't know.
random ordering of lists. It's like, it's not like all of the fish dishes and then all of
Yes.
the bread dishes. It's like, I just don't know what I'm looking for here. It's such a weird
Yeah.
order.
At the end, when I was trying to complete my recipe list, I ended up just looking up the last few recipes that I like
Yeah.
could not figure out.
Yeah. It honestly feels like the ordering of that list almost feels like someone forgot to implement the sorting algorithm.
Yes, I kept like trying to figure out like, am I missing a button? Like, there has to be a better way to look at this.
It's just like they went, okay, yeah, that's this. We'll deal with the sorting algorithm later. We'll just have a random number generator in there for just now, and they never went back to it.
Because I could not figure out a pattern to that recipe list.
Yeah, no idea.
It's not even in the order that you get them. It's not.
No,
I
because
don't know.
they're because you go down the list and you're like, oh, that's one I've done. Oh, that's one I've done. Yeah, so they're not even in that. It's what on earth? I have no idea.
Okay, so Thunder Lotus, if you're listening, there's a few improvements that we would look forward to in cooking.
Yeah. I think in general cooking was fine though, right? It was interesting, kind of putting things together. I think that it was the most investigatory part of it, where you're like, oh, what happens if I put these two together? And most of the time, it would only show you things. So what I liked about it is if you select, you've basically got two slots, right? And if you select one for one slot, it'll narrow down the list of things you can add to the second slot. So it was possible to get things that didn't work together, but it was much harder. So like you couldn't put like a boot and cheese together, right? Like it just wouldn't let you do that, which was quite nice.
I do like though that you could cook non-food things too.
Yeah.
But like I had a lot of fun playing with cooking, like, and seeing what would happen.
Exactly.
So yeah, I thought that was a lot of fun.
I also liked how it worked in that you could put any number of the two items up to 5 and you'd get a different number out, but it wasn't like you put in 1 and 5 and you get 1 out. I think you'd get like 3 out or something like that.
Yeah, it was a weird like I guess they would combine it and then like maybe divide it. I don't know.
Something like that, yeah.
You didn't have to put like 5 and 5 to get that many of that meal, which was really nice.
Yeah.
It was fun. Frustrating, but fun.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess the other kind of big mechanic thing is building. So you start out with this boat that's reasonably small, and you have like an area where you can build buildings on. So like for example, you first of all build an area for your spirits to relax in. The lounge type thing, and then you get other things like the kitchen and the farms and stuff, and they all go in this square. And you upgrade the boat, and that makes the area that you can build in bigger, and you unlock other buildings as you go. And yeah, what I really liked about this was I love how you can just organize it however you want, and it just kind of adds in ladders and stilts to make it all make sense.
I liked that a lot. Like you could raise houses if you wanted to, or buildings, like whatever you wanted. I felt like there was a lot of freedom.
Yeah.
In that.
Freedom, but easy freedom. So it's not like, oh, you have to put the building here, and then you have to make sure that these things link up together. So that it just makes it work. And
they were just like, we're gonna figure it out for you. Just decide where you want to put it. Like
and you could make these ridiculous looking systems where like when I got the biggest boat, because I like I like powered through that as fast as I could. I think that to actually get the last one, you had to get quite far through the story. But I just powered through the building up as much as I could.
I did the same thing because I was like, I want as much space.
Yeah. But what I did was I kind of separated it out into like, so you can basically build an individual house for each of your spirits. And so I built them all right at the top of the square, and then all of the kind of communal stuff right at the bottom. And so you had this ridiculous looking thing where you had this really long boat with like one single strip of buildings along the bottom, and then this massive amount of space and stilts up to this very thin strip at the top.
Wait, so that's literally how I designed my boat too.
Amazing.
But I would keep characters down at the bottom until I took them to the Everdoor, and then once they went to the Everdoor, I would stilt their house.
That's why I ended up doing at the end, or near the end. But like, when I was I hadn't taken many to the Everdoor. I had all of them at the top. And I love just the ridiculousness of it, and it's like it doesn't give you any disadvantage. Like your boat isn't gonna fall over or whatever. It just looks ridiculous, and I loved it.
It just makes it a little harder for you to get up to the top like quickly too.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
loved the animation for you sliding down the ladder.
Oh yeah. Oh, that was really nice. Yeah, you're not walking down. Yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's good fun. Yeah,
But yeah,
I,
I had a lot of fun just designing and like I tried to keep certain buildings in like a business district, and then
yeah,
like I would have my farming area, my processing
yeah.
area.
I had a fun strip up the left hand side of my square of all my farming so that I could go in, farm, and then just jump up to the next one, go in, water, jump up to the next one, and then that was good fun.
I think that's basically how I did mine too, and then I had them like lead up to the lighthouse or something.
Yeah. I really like how you can reorganize it as well. So like just as you go on, you can just let go, actually I'm gonna change how these buildings are. And it's not only can you go, right, I want to move that building to there, but if it's possible, it will shift buildings.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're like, I want to put it here, but there's like not quite enough space. If there was enough space for a building to move, it would kind of do this nice animation where it'd be like, okay, well, if you place it here, this building will be popped up here. And you can go, okay, yes, I'll do it. And it'll just do it. It'll just shift the buildings. It was really nice.
Yeah, I thought the whole building thing was very user friendly. Like
Yeah.
it was very helpful to the player. This is
It's
actually what
really,
I did most of the nights that I didn't sleep was I
I
would
just reorganize
rearrange
things.
my
Love
buildings.
it. Love it. I think I think the thing about it is it's really hard to explain how the building system works, but is incredibly intuitive. Like
Hmm.
everything just works and it shows you how it's going to work and you're just like, okay, that makes perfect sense. Like it, I'm having a really hard time trying to think about how to explain how it works because it like
Um,
shows you this kind of you can see what it actually is like while also seeing what it's going to be like, and it
yep.
overlays them in a really what sounds confusing but actually works so well.
And there's even like that thing that would happen where if you would take a certain house or a building that had a certain feature and you put it in an area where it couldn't have that feature anymore, certain buildings would
Oh yeah, yeah.
adjust and like
Yeah, like the
restructure
roofs and
themselves.
stuff. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there were parts of it that were like cosmetic parts to the building that you could yeah, squeeze things together more or you could separate them more and it would look fancier of a building. Yeah, that
Hmm.
was quite nice.
I think the whole building thing was they did that very well.
Really good. Yeah, yeah. No notes. No notes on this one.
I also did think that most of the like the timing in game for the boat upgrades was done very well. Like I don't think there was any
In terms
point
of
where
like as the story progresses.
yeah, like I don't think there was
Yeah.
any point where I felt like my boat was like lagging or
Yeah.
like
Oh
I
yeah,
was
yeah,
like
yeah. You
stuck.
always had enough space. Definitely. Even with my ridiculous number of farms.
Yeah, you had a lot. I think I only had like two of each.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's probably how many they expect people to have, but what can I say? I like farming.
Who would have thought?
So the main kind of story and also the side quests are all built into a quests style system. So there is a main story that you can get through, but it shows up kind of similarly to how the side quests do. You've just got when you have a window where you can see all your quests, and there are I think is it three different sections?
I think so. It's like what was it like Francis's quests, regular quests, and then
Yes.
like NPC quests, like side
Well,
quests.
one
I guess.
yeah. Yeah, so yes, something like that. There were three different ones anyway. One was the main story, one was side quest, and one was yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. The Francis ones. Anyway,
Or
that's
wait,
not
no, was
massively
it
important.
boat quests?
I can't remember. I don't think it's important exactly
No,
what the
it's
third
not.
one
It's
was,
not.
but there was the main quest, the side quest, and the other thing that was specific, and I can't remember what it was. But that doesn't matter. I liked how they did this. In that I love any game that will write you lists of everything you're doing. Right. I
Yes.
can't stand when there's like you can do this thing, but we're not going to remind you of it anywhere. You just have to remember yourself. That drives me insane.
I
Um,
can't handle games like that because I
I
lose
know.
what I'm doing, where I'm supposed to be
Yeah.
going. Like it's
Yeah.
just yeah, this quest system, the way they set it up, everything was really like top notch, I felt like.
Yeah. Yeah, but they also, the separation works really well as well. So you can essentially ignore all the side quests if you want and just focus on the main story, and it gives you a really good indication of what do you have to care about and what are optional and what are really very optional. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
and I really like that. So it's not just like what here's a massive list of things to do and you can be overwhelmed about that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that because I can get very like, okay, I'm gonna do this quest and then I'll do that quest and then I'll do this, and it's like, no, let me not rush. I can just enjoy myself and like do a quest as I feel like doing a quest.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So they've it's I think yeah. Was it upgrades? Was that the third one?
Yeah, that's why I think that was the boat because I
Yes.
think that was
Yeah.
boat upgrades. Yeah.
That was really nice, right? Because the amount of time, because obviously to do a boat upgrade it cost money, but also you had to get certain items, and that was really nice being able to have that wherever you are. You have written down what you need for the next upgrade,
Yes.
so you can go, do I need to care about this? Look in the thing. No, I don't care about that. That's fine. I'm not using that just now. That's fine. How much do I need? So you don't have to travel to where you upgrade the boat to then go, oh, I can't upgrade the boat. You can just look at it where you are and decide whether you're going to go and upgrade it now or not.
Yep. And I'm a person who will take notes on stuff in games where like
Yeah.
they don't tell you all of that information, so it was really nice to
Yeah.
not have to like write down every boat upgrade to figure out like, okay, well I need this many
Yes.
items.
Yeah.
How many
Yeah.
do I have? Where do I get them from? What do I have to do?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Very
It was really
convenient
good.
to have that like so accessible.
Yeah. And I never felt like it was missing anything. Like quite often with these things, it's like, okay, you've decided what's important to put in this list of things to complete, but you're actually missing some things that I want to do that you don't think are quests, but they really are quests. Tell me them, put them in the list. I did not feel that in this game at all. Like everything that you can do in the game, it's in this list at some point.
Yep.
Obviously, you have to get to a point where you're like, okay, now I know about this. It doesn't just have this permanent list of everything that's possible to do in the game. But there was never a point where I was like, here was a thing that I should have done and I forgot about it because it wasn't in a list. That just didn't exist. It was really good.
Yep, and I think that also helped to like eliminate like hand holding
Yeah. Yeah.
within the game because they didn't have to push you to go a certain place. You had to look at your list and then you would say, oh, this is what I need to do next to progress the story.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have to go here, you know? Like, so it was kind of like a nice little like reminder.
Yeah. I guess we should talk about the NPCs. I have 3 in a list. I don't know whether there were others or not. These were just the ones that I thought about. So there was the so there was the raccoons. I don't know whether it was one or whether it was multiple.
I think that's like kind of part of the joke, right? I think there was at least 2 though. Because
Right,
there
okay.
was that sketchy island
Yeah.
where there was
Oh, yeah.
a
Yeah.
raccoon who was definitely not following the rules of
Yes. Okay, yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
the rest of them.
I found that the raccoons quite fun. The don't want to give
Yeah.
away that because it's not necessary for discussing it, but that was fun.
Yeah,
I
they
think.
were cute. I liked them.
Yeah. I also like, so it's Francis, isn't it, the shark who you
No,
upgrade the boat?
Francis
No.
is
Oh, the merchant. The
yeah,
floating
yeah.
merchant. Yeah, sorry. What
The
was
shark
ship
was
shark called?
Albert with his like dad puns that I
Yes,
loved so
that's
much.
right. Yeah. I like how each of these characters had quite a personality. They weren't just like random person who doesn't really matter and you get stuff from.
Yeah, I liked that a lot too. Like each of them have their own little thing,
Yeah.
and I think it makes
Yeah.
them more memorable.
Yeah. Yeah. And specifically, I love Susan. Susan was so good and just so ridiculous.
I
Yeah.
loved her like haughty attitude
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
how I was
Yeah.
just like wasting her time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really good. If you've not played the game, like playing it just for Susan is worth it. Like it's just so much. I feel like they put in Susan because they were like, this is a thing that we kind of need to have in the game, but also like we think it's a bit silly. And so let's kind of mock people when they actually do it.
Yeah.
But it's going to be there anyway. You know, it was quite fun.
This isn't actually like specific NPC related, but I guess it could possibly fit here. But I feel like the dialogue in this game was so good.
Yeah.
Like I feel like they hit like this kind of like genuine realness.
Yeah.
where it doesn't feel like this is like scripted video game talk.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're right, and it's like e every kind of character as well has something interesting to say.
Even like the
Um,
the weird spirits that you talk to like once on an
yeah,
island. Like that kind of reminded me of like Night in the Woods or Undertale, which like I hold both of those games highly because of their dialogue.
right.
So I think they crushed it with that. Like
Yeah, no, agreed.
especially with a game that so much is based on the characters and the story.
Yeah,
To like not
yeah.
have great dialogue would have definitely the game wouldn't have been the same.
Oh, definitely, definitely. It's like you can have all these great mechanics, but the whole point of this game is around the story, right? Like, yeah, sure, it's a good resource management game, but it's nothing without its story. Like that is
Yeah.
how they built it. So yeah, it needed to be good.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like that was like I don't know where else to add this, but I definitely felt like the dialogue was a major part of
Yeah, agreed.
the entire game.
I've put in a bit here about the map just because I wanted to talk about this. Obviously, we've discussed about how it you use the map to travel, but also it starts out like really unexplored, and you're kind of exploring as you go, and it fills in as you sail over places, which is nice.
Yeah, I liked that a lot. Where it was like, oh, I'm not gonna just reveal the whole map to you at once. You have to kind of like work for this.
But it's also not like, a lot of a lot of these games where you've got like a big map that you go over. I'm trying really hard not to use the term open world, but you know what I mean.
Yes,
Um,
yeah,
you kind of have this awkward bit where you go to a specific place and then hey, you've unlocked a sixth of the map.
yeah.
It doesn't have that. Like when you get to an island, you get like a little circle around it that you can view. But other than that, it's basically just where
That
you've
area,
been.
yeah.
Exactly, which is really nice.
I spent a good
Feels
amount of
real.
time just sailing the borders of areas to try to open
Mm.
up
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
see
Let's
if I was
finish
missing
finish
anything.
this section. Yeah.
Yeah,
I did
yeah. I don't want
actually,
to.
yeah. Near the end, I sailed around the entire
Yes,
uh, border of the whole map just to make sure I had everything filled in.
that's exactly what I did. I was like, okay, well, just before I put this game down, let me just check and make
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's some sneaky things that you're like, oh, you could easily miss that bit.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, good fun. There's also, I think, it's probably don't need to focus on this too much, but there's some upgrades to your ship that you need to do to go to certain parts of the map. Like there's lines where you can't cross if you do it, but I don't think that's massively important. It's just an interesting way that they did you can't just go in the whole map right from the start.
yeah, yeah. I think the way they handled that was like well done too.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know about you, but I felt like the map felt a good size. Like it felt reasonably big, but it didn't feel overwhelmingly massive.
Yeah, definitely. Like at first, I was a little worried when you couldn't see most of the map,
Yeah,
but I think once I played for like a day or two, I was like, okay, the
yeah.
map doesn't
I see where
concern
this
me
is going.
anymore.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely, definitely. So the last thing mechanics wise I want to talk about is just around how the spirits work. Um, and there's kind of like a core cycle with them, which is quite interesting in that they don't obviously they don't die why if you don't do things right, obviously because they're already dead. But um you kind of to progress the story, you have to like if you talk to someone and you want to progress the story, they won't do it until you actually feed them and comfort them. So they get grumpy essentially, and like I'm not going to do it until you feed me or whatever. So you have to give them food, and then you can also hug them. But what I really liked about it is that if they didn't want to hug, you didn't hug them.
Yes, I really liked that idea of like consensual hugging.
Yeah, yeah. It's like not just now, thanks. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
exactly. Like, maybe some other time.
Yeah, yeah. But what I also really liked about the hug is the animations were so good and gave you such an it's like even the most kind of standoffish character, if they accepted a hug, would just kind of collapse into your
Oh my
arms.
god, the melting! Like I felt like,
So good.
especially like I mean, I played this 9 months into quarantine,
Yeah.
so I felt like
Mm,
there was some like I could feel the emotions coming through the screens.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. Definitely. You could tell when you hugged them, they really needed that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's like they can, especially some of the characters, you're just like, if you didn't do that, you would kind of assume that they didn't really like human contact or whatever. But then
Mm-hmm.
as soon as they accepted a hug, you're like, okay, fine, yes, no, I need this.
Yep.
You know,
Oh, you were just
like,
being tough on the outside. Like you actually did need this.
yeah, yeah. There's other things around the food and stuff where, like, they only eat certain things, or one of them won't eat the same thing twice in a row, that sort of thing. It's a very small thing, but it's like kind of your typical resource management. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
have to remember what different people want. But if you offer them something they won't eat, it's not, they just grump at you, and then you can give them something else. It's, the same with all the other things in the game. They don't punish you. It just slows you down.
Yeah, I did. I thought it was like kind of frustrating in like a good way, like trying to
Yeah.
figure out what they liked, what they disliked, their favorite foods.
I feel a little bit like you're you know how when you have siblings, don't you?
I have a little sister, yes.
Right, just one. But you know that point where you've grown up a little bit, and your parents try to remember what you like and dislike, and they always get them mixed up.
Yes.
It felt a little bit like that. You felt like a parent with multiple children, and you're just trying to, like, okay, so what don't you like just now? Because also when you're a kid, like, things change all the time. So you're like,
Hmm.
oh, I thought you didn't like this, and you're like, no, I like it. I didn't like it a couple of years ago, and you're like, oh, I
But like I
can't
changed
keep
my
track of
mind.
these things. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So you just felt like a parent of, like, teenagers, and you're just trying to remember who likes what,
Hmm.
and who is just not fussy, but just like wants to eat different things every time. You're just like, oh my word.
Yep. And then there would be like some where like I'd figure out like what they liked, but I couldn't figure out food they loved. And so I'd like try to
Yes.
like think about like, oh, if they like this type of food, I'll try a similar type of food.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, that was like I definitely think the parent trying to figure out their teenagers' food desires is a good
yeah.
analogy for this.
Yeah, so it's not overly complicated dealing with the spirits and keeping their mood up to date, but it's just a thing you have to remember as you go
Hmm.
through the game. And yeah, you can't progress the story until you've fed them, which is fair enough. They're not going to do something for you until they have actually been given some food. But
Yeah, even
yeah,
even for spirits, I feel like that's fair. Who doesn't want to eat food?
yeah. Well, that's the thing. I feel like they don't need to because they're already dead. But like,
Hmm.
it's the same with the sleeping. It's like, you can if you want, and why not? You get
Yeah,
grumpy. That's fine. You do these things. I've spent my entire life eating and sleeping every day.
it's like actions that bring you comfort without even
Yeah.
thinking about it.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah, definitely, definitely. So I think that's all the mechanics and everything I want to say about the mechanics. So before we move into the storyline stuff, is there anything else you want to discuss around mechanics that we haven't already?
No, I think that's it. I think we covered everything in my notes too.
Oh, well, I should hope so. We're an hour and a half into
I
recording.
know.
So we're probably not going to spend like ages on this, but
Hmm.
I felt like we couldn't discuss this game without discussing the characters and their stories at least a little bit. So this is the point. If you don't want proper story spoilers, like everything is fair game now, then I will put a timestamp in the show notes, and there will be a chapter in the MP3. So if you use a podcatcher with chapters, you can skip through to the after the spoilers bit. But you have been warned. No complaining about the spoilers, please and thanking you.
And I would definitely recommend, if you haven't played the game yet, to skip this part because I feel like going into this part blind is like it just makes the story more personal, I think, when you're playing it
Yeah,
for the first time.
definitely. So now that that's over, uh, I don't. What do we want to talk about with characters? We've got a list of the characters. Um, do, I think maybe we could talk about it as a whole, the story as a whole. So I think it's interesting how I never considered this, but obviously Stella, your character's name is, isn't it?
Hmm.
Stella. Stella's also dead.
Yes.
right?
It
I
took
never
me a
really
while
considered
to
that.
realize that.
Yeah, but Stella's dead. And so Stella is here dealing with all these people's problems. What are Stella's problems? You know,
Well,
like it's interesting. That just popped into my head just now.
I felt like this was something I didn't think about until like later on in the game, but I did feel like that the game, by giving you certain characters in a certain order, actually led you through your own process of grief, so that
Yeah,
by the time it was your own time, you were more at peace with where you were at and your own death. If that makes sense. Like I feel like
yeah,
it
yeah,
was in like some ways, yes, Stella was leading all of these spirits to their Everdor, but at the same time, these spirits were helping Stella get to her own Everdor.
yeah, yeah. That definitely makes sense. I think it's interesting that because obviously you get that from the fact that so many of them are related to her in some way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they all are. I think some of them are brand new people that you've never met. Certainly Stanley is, because I'm
Yeah.
so confused by Stanley. Um, uh, but yeah, so that's an interesting part of it. I hadn't thought about it like that, but yeah, I guess that is what it is.
Yeah, I did like that the mix of characters were people that were literally tied to Stella through relations,
Yeah,
or people that she met in life that weren't necessarily related to her, but still held an impact in her life.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I guess it's I'm trying to think of the best things to do. So we obviously don't want to spoil everything about this, but I think there's some interesting stories that we can discuss here. So one thing I think is that most of these characters, other than I think a tool, how do you say that? A tool,
I called him a tull. I wasn't sure, honestly.
tool. Anyway, the frog, and possibly Stanley. I think everyone else has uh, people facing persona, and that you kind of have to break through to get to them.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Atul wears his heart on his sleeve, and
Yes.
just kind of like you meet him. I mean, he was your uncle, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think.
Yeah, he was your
Um,
uncle.
so obviously he knows you, but like from the moment he meets anybody, he's like kind of just brain vomits his personality onto you.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
He's
whereas
just like
everyone else
so
has this.
open, like
Yeah. Whereas
immediately.
everyone else has this kind of protection around their true self that you have to kind of
Mm-hmm.
dig down to and get to, and that process is really interesting.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think with Stanley, it's like there's this. I don't want to call it naivety because I don't think that's what it is. I think just because he's so young,
Yeah,
he he doesn't go through the process of lying to himself about what's happening to him or
yeah,
where he is. So things are just very
yeah,
straightforward with him. Like there's
yeah,
there's nothing really hidden behind Stanley,
yeah, yeah,
which
yeah,
makes it so much
yeah.
harder in some ways because he was more accepting and open of where he was and his own death and everything than some of the other characters were.
Yeah, and these two characters we're talking about just now, Atul and Stanley, I hated both of their endings. Right. So,
Toll killed me.
Atul is almost like he was almost he didn't even really need you. He doesn't really need. He never needed to kind of get to that point where he was willing to kind of to end it. He was just like,
Hmm.
okay, I'm going now, and I'm not even gonna tell you.
I was so heartbroken.
I legitimately thought it had bugged. I thought there was
I
a bug in the game.
I thought it was a prank
Oh, really?
because like I think I went to speak to Astrid the next morning and she was like
Right.
said something like, oh, he's gone, and I was like, oh, ha ha. And then I like went around the entire boat and like literally slack jawed.
Yeah.
Sat there for like 5 minutes afterwards, like once I realized what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But what an amazing metaphor for like not being able to say goodbye.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know.
Like as painful as it is, like they did that so well.
Yeah. I hate it.
I know. It was so
Yeah.
well done, but oh my god, I was so upset.
Yeah. 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 But and equally, like Stanley's was horrible for a whole different reason. Like
Yeah.
basically just deciding to go because he thinks everyone hates him.
Yeah.
And you're like, No, no, don't. You don't need to go. They don't hate you. They were being nice. Like, it's not.
Yeah.
Oh,
Uh,
heartbreaking.
Stanley's play just broke my heart too.
I know.
And I think the worst part was my timing for each of these events because I lost a Tull and then I did Stanley's play.
Oh no.
So they were like back-to-back events that just literally shattered me.
I
But
think they've done a really good job of like all lots of different kinds of grief.
yes.
And
Yeah.
it's like, I think those two got me the most, but then Astrid and Giovanni's combined story broke me in a different way.
Yeah. I wanted to hate Giovanni more,
Yeah.
but to say that he didn't charm me would be a lie too.
So I guess to kind of explain this one, it's for anyone who's listening because they haven't played and never planned to play. Astrid and Giovanni were a couple, and you meet them at different points in your journey. But they kind of, it's almost like they're. I feel like they must have not been together when they died, and they're kind of getting back together now that they're dead,
That's
sort of
kind
thing.
of the vibe I got too, because they were
Yeah.
also your adoptive grandparents.
Oh, were they? I've
Yeah.
missed that bit. Oh, interesting. Completely missed that bit. Um, and then there's a point where you find out that Giovanni is cheating on Astrid, and then you have to kind of, I think, do you get a choice? I think you get a choice on whether to tell Astrid or do you have to? I can't remember.
You get a choice,
You get a choice.
and no matter what you choose, I think I don't think it ends up well.
Yeah. So then they split up again, but they're dead. It's all very confusing. And then you have to build like this extra place for Giovanni too, because they were Giovanni was staying with Astrid,
Yeah.
and now they split up. So you need to build another place for Giovanni, but he essentially just sleeps on a couch, which
Yeah.
kind of makes me feel like he was always expecting that he was going to be accepted back again.
Yep. Like I feel like literally it was a metaphor for their relationship in real life too, because obviously he was cheating on
Yeah.
her when they were together.
Oh yeah, of course.
So he's
Yeah, yeah.
comfortable with sleeping on the couch. He's comfortable being in the
Yeah.
doghouse.
Yeah, but always knowing that that's going to end. But then I think once he realizes, actually, no, that's it. She's not accepting me back. He's just like, okay, well, I'm gone then.
Yep.
Bye.
I feel like that was like so bittersweet because all I wanted
Yeah.
was Astrid to kick him out,
Yeah.
but I didn't want her to be in pain because of it.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's any way for that to actually happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But oh my god, she was such a I don't know if I'm allowed to say badass. You can tell me if I'm not, but she was such a badass
it's
character.
Yeah.
I think that made her weakness for Giovanni and his sliminess like hurt even more.
I mean, isn't that just like real life though? Like we no matter how we are, we always have there's always someone that we have a weak spot for. It doesn't have to be romantic, right? It can be like just a friend or whatever. But like there's
someone
always
you're
someone
willing
who are like
to apologize
Yeah.
for and like make excuses for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But I don't know if you picked up on some of her backstory, but she housed I think children. They were alluding to the idea that it was World War II.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So she I think housed like Jewish children in her basement and stuff. And like it was like a strong activist in political stuff.
Yeah.
So it's just like it was so hard to see her with Giovanni.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. Who else have we got? We got Gustav. He was interesting in a way, but I kind of feel like he was a metaphor for the fact that you just lose everything when you die.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and that was kind of, you kind of feel sorry for him because he's trying to rebuild a collection in in this spirit world, but then kind of just accepts that, you know what, it's not for me, it's for other people, and just kind of leaves it. But his museum is still there for everyone to see.
I think Gustav kind of like hit me. I don't want to say on a personal level because I feel like in some way all of these characters hit me on a personal level. But
Yeah.
as someone like I have been doing art my entire life, so a lot of what he said connected to a lot of concepts that I struggle with and I fight with.
Right.
So I thought that was very interesting because you don't always see people talking about that in video games. But like the
Yeah.
very philosophical, what do we leave behind type of questions.
Yeah. 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 And I seem to have forgotten most. Oh no, Summers. Summers was the dragon stuff.
Yes. I
Oh,
don't know if this was
dark.
just me, but I thought the dragon was a metaphor for a drug addiction at first.
I'm yeah. I didn't necessarily think specifically that, but it was definitely
Mm-hmm.
something like that. There was something dark that she like hated about herself,
Mm-hmm.
but needed to conquer. And yeah, I think it could be something like drug addiction. I don't know exactly, but yeah, it was certainly something like the dragon storyline around that was just like really
Yeah. Well, so she
a bit
she
too
she had cancer, so that like made it even worse, I feel like, because
right.
she always spoke about like she has to fight this thing and then accept this thing and love this thing.
Yeah.
But as if it's something that she caused to happen, like she's at
Right.
fault
Okay.
for cancer.
Uh,
You know what I mean? Like that you're not at fault.
yeah.
You don't choose this.
Yeah. 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 Definitely.
There's only so much you can do, Like there's only so much. I don't know. That I liked Summer a lot. I really loved the musical aspect of her.
Yeah.
Which I didn't want to say this in the farming area because I wasn't sure if this was like a spoiler, but I really enjoyed the fact that you could speed up farming by using the music.
Yeah. 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 I guess maybe that specific thing probably wasn't a spoiler, but we're not going back and adding that.
Yeah, no. I figured
We'll
it's
keep it
it's
in the spoiler zone.
safer to be back
Yeah.
here. But I
Yeah,
also
definitely.
really loved how much that like tied you back to Summer every time you went and played the music.
Yeah. I think they do a good job that with everything, right? There's
Mhm.
nothing you do on the boat that doesn't remind you about the spirit that explained that to you.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Um Bruce and Mickey. Oh,
they
this one in particular got me a lot because so clearly so Mickey was in some sort of accident and
Mhm.
is obviously not of the same mental capacity of normal people, shall we say? Non-normal. That's the wrong word. You know what I mean.
Mhm. I get what you're trying to
Let's not
say.
let's not pretend that people don't understand what I'm saying. Um, and so Bruce always talks for Mickey, and they are a character despite being two characters. Um, but I really people may or may not know that one of my kids is quite severely autistic and has very little communication. He's 6 years old and basically doesn't talk at all. And the whole interpreting what somebody is trying to mean and wants without them having any real verbal or any other that kind of communication, only very simple communication, is really difficult. And I feel like I got a lot of feelings from Bruce about the fact that he was clearly exhausted by helping his brother with everything and always being there, and I get that. uh
But I don't think that stopped
yeah.
him from ever just forging on ahead to like make sure that he was trying to take care of his brother.
Of course not. That's why
Yeah.
he's exhausted. That's the
Yeah,
entire point.
exactly.
Like you never get to that situation. Like you never
He never
if you
abandons
if you're
Mickey.
going if you're going to get if you're going to give up by because you're exhausted, you never would have got exhausted in the first place. It's the love of that person that keeps you going.
Hmm. And even like the visual metaphor of the two of them, like a
Oh,
giant
yeah.
bull being picked up and
Mhm.
carried around by a tiny little hummingbird. I thought that was like because at first I didn't understand, and then I was like a little annoyed by Bruce, and then I
Yeah.
started to understand that like Mickey was not capable of communication,
Yeah.
and I think once I got that idea, I was like, okay, I will accept any rudeness from you, Bruce, because you care about your brother so much. So I think like he can be abrasive at first, but once you understand like the backstory to them a little bit more,
Yeah.
I think you want to help them. You want to help him as much as possible.
It does a really good job, this game, of reminding you not to judge a book by its cover.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and this is probably the most emotional I've got doing a podcast.
Oh,
So,
Al.
I have nothing to say about Buck and Elena. I didn't really get to know their stories that much. Sorry.
I thought Buck was cute. I liked his little like side quests and stuff. He had fun. He had like a fun little nerdy personality. He was a little dork. But I did not
I
like
honestly can't
Elena.
remember.
I don't know. There was nothing redeeming about her that I could find.
Interesting.
She was just so cold.
Yeah.
And like I could even find ways to feel guilty about not liking Giovanni, despite his actions towards Astrid, but I could not find anything for Elena.
Yeah, I feel a little bit like I don't know. I obviously I think Buck is always your last spirit. I don't think it can be any other way. I don't think Elena is, but I just ended up getting Elena really late. And I think that kind of is part of the issue, is that by that point I was like, I kind of just want to finish the game and wasn't really embedding myself in the stories as much.
Yep.
Whereas, you just get to a point where you're like, okay, I've enjoyed this game, but I think I'm done for now. And that's kind of where I was with the two of them, and that's my issue, I think.
I think I did the same thing where I kind of messed up when I was supposed to get them. So by the time I got the two of them, like all of my characters were ready to leave. And I actually held on to a few of them because I didn't want to be stuck with Elena alone, and I didn't realize at that point that Buck would just stay. So there was like a few people I just didn't take to the Everdor because I didn't want Elena to be the last one on my boat.
Yeah, fair enough. One interesting thing is that if you ever try and hug Elena, she will hate that and get a strong negative mood.
Yeah.
Ever.
I did not realize
Just don't do it.
that she would really hate her house being decorated too, so I messed up and I decorated her house, and this is the only time I felt bad with her, because I didn't realize that she was being serious and like truly would hate her house being decorated, and I wish there was some way I could remove those decorations. Like I understand why I can't, because it's like the game's way of telling you like you actually didn't listen to your character.
Yeah.
But I felt very bad about it.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like, I guess the only thing in the game that it lets you do but you shouldn't do.
Yeah.
Everything else is like, here's a list of things, and up until that point in the game you've been like conditioned into, here are things to do. Let's do them. And then it's like, here are things to do but don't do them.
It was
really
very
sneaky,
conflicting.
clever.
It was,
and I think that's very deliberate.
Well. Yeah, they definitely did that on purpose. I think for me personally, like Alice had the most hard-hitting ending.
Right.
She was like the little hedgehog who ends up having dementia.
Oh no, I forgot about that. We hadn't talked about Alice, did we?
No, and I mean, I feel like I saw a lot of people online saying that this was like kind of like a low blow and an easy one.
No, it was not.
Personally, like my grandma had 2 strokes and she suffered from dementia, and this was just like, it was like watching her on the screen. You know what I mean? So I don't think this was a low blow. I think this was just, I don't think people realize how,
had they not had this.
Yeah, I don't think people realize how hard dementia is.
Yeah. I'm the same. My granddad went that way as well, and my wife's granny did as well. We lost both of them over the course of a year. Although both of them, Lona's granny had gone through like, I think something like 5 or 6 years since she got dementia before she died, and it was like by the end there was basically nothing there.
Yeah.
And yeah, that as soon as I realized what was happening with Alice, I was like, oh no.
Yep.
Here we go. They're just they're in it to get me.
Because that's basically exactly what happened with my grandma. Like, she had 2 strokes. By the second one, it caused dementia, and she still lived on for like 5 or 6 years after that. But the memories just quickly evaporated.
Yeah, it was very well done. I don't think that it was cheap or easy or unnecessary. I think that it would have felt incomplete exploring grief and not exploring that. Like,
I'm getting teary-eyed thinking about this.
It felt really real and really well done. And like,
even I don't
like
know,
you still just had to keep going.
Yeah, I don't know if this is like too much Everdor spoilers, but even her end scene where she doesn't realize until like literally the last like 5 seconds
Yeah,
what's going on.
I know, but you have to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Which is why like I
it's difficult.
think in a way it's good that she's like kind of like a earlier game character
Yeah.
because I think by the end of the game you have a better sense of how to deal with the grief, maybe. I don't know.
Speak for yourself.
Maybe. Look, I was rewatching her ending scene last night and I still cried. I was like, oh, I won't cry. I cried.
All right, I think we're done.
Did we talk about Gwen? Was that the only one we missed?
We talked about Gwen in the beginning, didn't we?
Oh, yeah, I think we did. I think you're right, yeah.
Unless there's something else you want to add on that one.
No, I think that's it. I was just looking over my notes and seeing.
I guess, is there anything we want to talk about the update? It's interesting that they're clearly adding in actual more story, which will be interesting. Do you know about, we know very little about any of these characters, but we do know one thing about Lily. Do you know what that thing is? I don't know whether this is a bad thing to talk about.
I don't know anything about her.
Lily is Stella's sister.
Oh, okay.
And
so
Lily was there when Stella dies.
Oh, okay. Because so Lily is how Stella knows of Buck, because Stella never met Buck.
Right.
That's interesting. I wonder if she'll be an animal then.
I mean, I'm guessing so, because
right?
like I think
they're all related to her. That's silly. Why did I ask that?
Yeah, I think if you weren't, you're only seeing Stella as a human because you're Stella.
Yeah, yeah. I do love that
I
her
think
cat
everyone
is
else
with her. Like, I love that Daffodil is with her.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. I really hope I can get into the updates. I kind of a little bit worried that I'll get back into it and being like, I'm done with the game.
Yeah,
and I think that'll be a shame because I feel like there's certainly a lot of potential in the sister storyline.
A part of me like wondered when I first saw this update if I should just restart the entire game.
For when the update comes out.
For when the update comes out. But then
I'm tempted to wait till all three are out.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like I don't want to restart it every time.
Yeah.
But if I wait till the last update, then it'll be like at least a year since I've played. So it won't be like
maybe
so
you
fresh.
need that.
Yeah, exactly. It'll probably be good to
like
take a step away from the game.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I'm really a bit nervous, but also intrigued as to how that storyline is going to go. Interestingly, I think there's a lot of stuff that I missed in the game, or stuff that I just didn't see. The wiki for the game has basically all of the information about people, and there's a lot that I missed.
There's definitely like a lot of stuff though that's kind of like vaguer.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Because like there's a lot of stuff where like I didn't realize was the thing until like after I also went on like Wiki or the Reddit, and like the art book has a lot more information apparently on certain characters.
Right.
And stuff.
Okay. Maybe that's what it is then, because it's like I think Stella was a nurse.
Yes,
I think
she was an end of life nurse.
Which I never noticed. I didn't see. I don't know whether that was in the game or whether that was an art book thing or whatever. But yeah.
I think you start to get hints of it from Hades the Owl. Those scenes. So you start to get these like clips, but they're not very. They're not set in any order really, and they're kind of like they confused me a little bit.
Right. Yeah. I think maybe some. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've not got more to say on this. I'm interested as to what will happen with the update, and I hope I'm not disappointed.
Yeah, same. I feel like they were very good about the details, so I can't see this being a bad thing. But yeah, my biggest concern, like you said, is like my own, I guess, attachment or whatever to the game. Like, do I feel the same level as like the first time I played, or will it feel different because this is like a little bit more disconnected? Yeah.
I guess it depends on how they do it, right? If you just build up the game and it's like, oh no, there's another spirit, that'll feel a little bit more detached. Whereas if it's like something else, I don't know,
maybe you have to do a few quests before you can even talk to the spirit.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it. Like, I'm not a game designer. I'm not going to make it up. But like, I hope they have a good plan rather than just like, oh, we're just going to add in another storyline sort of
Yeah.
thing. But we'll see. Anything else you want to talk about the game before we finish?
I think that's it. I loved this game. I was as emotional as it was. Like, I could not recommend this. Like, I could not. How am I trying to say this? I would never not recommend this game to someone. I think everybody should kind of play this game. I think it kind of it gives you, it allows you to be introspective into your own life. And I think it just has like a beautiful message, as hard as it can be to play sometimes.
Yeah.
The game is simple and yet emotionally so difficult.
Yeah. I found that okay, until like 6 years ago, I'd never really encountered grief. So like my dad's granddad had died when I was 12 or something, right? My great granddad, he died when I was 12, and that was my first death. But I didn't really know him. Like he was 102. Like when I was born, he was 90, right? Like I never really knew him. He never really seemed like a person to me. He was just this old man that we went to visit and gave us some money and sweets, right? Like I didn't know him.
Yeah.
And then apparently I'm getting really personal in this episode. Thanks very much. When my wife was pregnant with Nathan, our first child, it was actually twins, and we lost one of the twins before birth, and that was my first real experience of grief, and that hit me hard because I didn't know how to deal with that.
Yeah, that is.
And I found
that is a very deep level of grief. I can't even begin to imagine because I've not experienced something like that.
But I found that there's a podcast I listened to called Terrible, Thanks for Asking, and it's about like horrible things in life and just about how people deal with it. And it's like things aren't necessarily good, and that's okay. And you just have to deal with that. And I found that actually hearing about other people's grief and learning through that really helped me kind of process it, because it's really difficult to process these things. And I found that really helped. And so like I legitimately think if you're someone who's only just experiencing grief for the first time and you're like, I don't know what to do, play this game.
Yeah.
Like seriously play this game. I think legitimately it was a great way of knowing how to rationalize these things and how to get your head on straight is by actually experiencing more of it. And that sounds almost sadistic, but it's true.
No, it is true, because I think it can be so easy for some people to just not even deal with their grief, and they don't realize the repercussions of that to themselves. Definitely. So I think this game really does do an amazing job of showing you how to handle all different sorts of grief.
Thanks, Kelly. I wasn't when we first organized this podcast, I wasn't expecting this, but here we are. I hadn't played the game before when I suggested to you that we should do.
Oh yeah, I think I knew that, but I think it's been so long at this point that I forgot.
Anyway, thank you for talking to me about this experience.
I'm glad I could be here and share this with you, Al. I'm sorry that this is such a emotional.
No, don't be sorry about that. Don't apologize about emotion. Thank you, listeners, for joining us. I may never open up like this again. We'll see. Kelly, where can people find you on the internet?
I use Instagram, so you can find me at Rallamieu. It's RALLAMIEU. And
we will have a link to that in the show notes. Because I, personally, really bad at picking things spelling up when people say it in podcasts. So there will be a link in the show notes if you want to get to that. You can follow me on Twitter at @TheScottBot. Scott has one T. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at THSPod. You can also email us from our website, harvestseason.club, where you can access other things such as the show notes and a link to our Patreon if you would like to financially support us. Thank you all for joining us and for listening and everything. And until next time, have a good harvest.
The Harvest Season is created by Rochelle Delaney and Al McKinley, with support from our Pro Farmer level patrons, Kevin and Stuart. Our art is done by Micah the Brave, and our music is done by Nick Burgess. Feel free to visit our website, harvestseason.club, for show notes and links to things we discussed in this episode. Thanks for listening.
I just realized I hadn't told you what happens at the end. Where
I was wondering the same thing.